I wasn't able to see the following movies shown here, but I will be seeing them soon. If you'd like to see more updates on that, feel free to check my Letterboxd, link in description below. If you were to ask me, hey Jeff, was 2024 a good year for movies? I'd say yes. I wouldn't say absolutely or oh my gosh, it was amazing. I'd simply say sure. I mean, this isn't 2019 we're talking about here. Y'all remember that year? Man, that was good. I think one word to summarize 2024 in movies would be sleeper. Going into the year, movies I thought would be just okay turned out being some of my favorites of the year. There were some big surprises like Smile 2, Longlegs, and Late Night with the Devil. 3 very solid horror flicks that genuinely unsettled me. There were great ensemble pieces like Society of the Snow, The Bike Riders, and Saturday Night, which I found not a lot of people were too crazy about, but I found immense enjoyment in all of them. And you had some laughably good, yet painfully cringy and relatable times, like Dee Dee and Rap World, which clocking in at under an hour, some people wouldn't even classify this as a movie. All the aforementioned movies happen to be my honorable mentions of the year. So with that, here are my top 10 favorite movies of 2024. Cinema's nastiest moment of the year was Coralie Farge's The Substance, starring Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, which deals with a black market drug that fosters a younger version of yourself once it's used. This, naturally, leads to some gnarly and grotesque side effects when the rules of the game become slightly altered over time. There are a lot of important themes dealing with the terror of aging and the societal pressures of the female body, but despite all of this movie made me laugh like crazy. Was I supposed to laugh? I don't know. For a movie that does not shy away from blood and gore, I gotta say that the most disgusting scene in this movie is 5 minutes in, and it deals with 2 things: Randy Quaid and shrimp. Snack Shack was arguably the most underrated movie of the year, and I don't think many people actually got around to seeing this one. It's a very heartwarming and at times heartbreaking coming-of-age film with 2 great lead performances with fantastic chemistry. Gail Bedecker from Breaking Bad plays the dad in this movie. I mean, come on, why haven't you seen this yet? There are some very effective narrative choices that I think play out very well for the most part, especially in the third act. If you are a fan of movies like The Way, Way Back and Adventureland, like I am, you'll more than likely be a fan of Snack Shack. Speaking of underrated movies, we have a documentary. Renfair was a 3-part miniseries that probably shouldn't be a part of this list, but since it's under 3 hours in total, I'm including it anyway. You probably haven't seen or maybe even heard of this, so I'll explain it to you. Renfair is about the retirement of the man behind America's largest Renaissance festival. 3 people are looking to claim his throne, and this old bat has to pick. And before you get mad at me, I don't refer to the elderly as bats, like, ever, but if you watch this, you'll see where I come from. Lance Oppenheim takes the documentary genre and does things I haven't seen done with it before. He's able to fuse together surrealistic elements and sequences into his non-fiction storytelling. I think that's pretty cool. I won't say much more about Renfair. You just need to see it for yourself. You might get a kick out of it. If I heard about a proposed glamping site being built for tourists in my area, yeah, I'd be a little upset too. Look, I've always been a fan of slow burns. I like the feeling of being rewarded with something spectacular by the end of the film. I also like movies where you're waiting for something to happen and then you finally realize it's been happening the whole time. Those are reasons why Evil Does Not Exist landed a spot as one of my favorites of the year. Everything from the writing, to the performances, to the music, oh my gosh, the music, are all spectacular here. It's a movie that demands your patience with no distractions around you whatsoever. Hamaguchi does numbers with this one. If it doesn't take much for you to become uneasy at the movies, then I don't recommend you watch Red Rooms. This French-Canadian crime thriller masterpiece from Pascal Plante deals with Kellyanne, a Canadian model who becomes enamored with the case of serial killer Ludovic Chevalier. When a big piece of evidence is nowhere to be found, Kellyanne goes through hell and back to secure this information. It's a movie that talks about all parts of a trial that takes the media in its grasp. You have the people who are empathetic to the killer, you have those who despise them, you even have those who try to find the graphic live leak videos. It kind of reminds me of something we're dealing with right now, maybe? It's a movie that I just recently watched, so it's somewhat difficult to put my thoughts into words here. All I'll say is that there's a sequence towards the end of this film where I was sweating profusely. You have been warned. The Brutalist is a lot to talk about. Seeing this on the big screen almost felt wrong in a way, like I was undeserving of doing so. People will often talk about how a lot of long movies fly by. I sometimes disagree. The Irishman has a very similar runtime to this, and that movie, although a masterpiece, does not fly by. The Brutalist, however, does fly by. All technical aspects are meticulously crafted to perfection. There's so much care put into all the performances here. Not even 10 minutes in, I was on the verge of tears of joy thinking, man, Adrian Brody just loves what he does for a living. Brady Corbet tells this powerful story in such a different way that leaves you wanting more by the end. No joke, I could have watched another hour of this and would not have noticed. There's a path the narrative takes that I initially had doubts with, but over time I realized the place it had on the story, and it ended up elevating my appreciation for this movie. Dune Part 2 is a movie that a lot of people seem to forget about. My question is, how? I get that this was released early into the year, but genuinely, how can you forget about this spectacle of a movie? This is probably the best sci-fi movie of the century so far, and I personally don't think it's all that close. Everyone talks about the insane visuals on display in Dune Part 2. Sure, those are fantastic. But the fact that Denis Villeneuve has already had a masterful lineup of films prior to this one is almost more impressive. This goes to show that the year of 2024 was Timothée Chalamet's world, and we were all just living in it. Perhaps the most surprising movie of the year for me was I Saw the TV Glow by Jane Schoenbrunn, a movie that I still have trouble putting my thoughts into words. I Saw the TV Glow can be watched anytime, anywhere, but I feel like it's truly meant to be watched alone, at night. I don't think there's another director currently working like Jane Schoenbrunn. They tell the story in a way that sticks with you. Their direction, along with the incredible lead performance from Justice Smith, leaves you feeling mentally and emotionally drained, cold and damp, vulnerable. This movie's internal themes are some that I don't necessarily have the right or confidence to speak about, but I do get it. This movie left a mark on me that not many movies have ever left before. I also have to shout out Conor O'Malley's great performance here. Although his presence doesn't last long, his effect on the overall experience does. These last couple of spots are usually interchangeable for me, but for now, number 2 is Anora's spot. Look, I get what people are saying about not how everything works in this movie. Sure, some things could have been talked about more and explored more, but overall, I had a blast with this movie. Sean Baker has a very respectful and non-judgmental approach when it comes to telling a story about a line of work that is often frowned upon. All of the actors are on their A-game here. Most notably Mikey Madison. This is her movie through and through. You have A-plus comedic timing from everyone in a lengthy home invasion sequence that is probably my favorite scene of the year. This movie takes you on a wild ride of ups and downs and lefts and rights and doesn't stop until the credits roll. You've probably already heard a lot about this movie from everyone else, so I'll just say I fell in love with this movie and basically everything about it. Talk about a good script, Challengers has that. Talk about great performances, Challengers has that. Talk about everything I want in a movie, Challengers has everything. I had always liked Lucas' prior movies just fine, but man, Challengers came out of left field and whooped my fucking ass by the end of it. Many people have noticed, but the movie itself is like a game of tennis. A never-ending back and forth of emotions, all conducted with Luca Guadagnino's intricate strategies and risks. I was rising further and further out of my seat during every scene. It carries these undertones of sacrifice and eroticism and everything else, all which culminate to a fantastic and well thought out final sequence. There was a moment during this movie where I turned to my girlfriend and said, "This is one of the best movies I've ever seen." And you know what? It probably still is. It's fantastic. I love it. It's my favorite movie of the year, and I'm gonna show it to my parents sometime. Thank you all so much for watching. I know I haven't uploaded on here in several years, and I do apologize for that. School and work and life happened, and so much has gone on in the past, 7 or 8 years that I just haven't had the time, or interest, really. But by the end of next semester, I will have graduated college, which is wild to think about, and I figure I'd like to get back into YouTube a little bit. I don't know how much I'll be uploading on here, but expect, for the most part, movie-related content. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video.